Hello, everybody. Candlelighting time this evening is 5:37. This Shabbos, we're going to read the story of Noah and the flood. And we know that the flood was something which was very, very devastating and very destructive. It destroyed all of mankind except for Noah and his family. But God did it for a very good reason. The people were evil, and they brought evil and impurity into the world. And God had to correct that by destroying them and allowing the world to become once again a world where godliness can dwell. And, everything that God does, sometimes on the surface it could look like something which is very negative. But of course, we know that behind every act that God does, even if it looks negative on the surface, it's really a blessing in disguise. I want to share with you a story that happened in the times of the Baal Shem Tov. There was some of the followers of the Baal Shem Tov. There was a couple, a husband and wife that had no children, and every year the husband would travel to the Baal Shem Tov, and during his talk with the Baal Shem Tov, he would ask for a blessing for children, and the Baal Shem Tov seemed to ignore his answer, and he always answered the other questions that he had, but not this one. And then one year his wife said, "I'm going with you." And she came into the room with her husband, where the Baal Shem Tov was, and she cried bitterly, and she begged and asked for a blessing for a child. And the Baal Shem Tov thought for a moment, and he said, "This year you will have a son." And sure enough, that year a beautiful baby boy, was born to the couple, and it was she was absolutely so happy, so joyous with her new baby boy, and he was such a beautiful child. And unfortunately, when the child was 2 years old, the child became sick and passed away. And she went running back to the Baal Shem Tov, and she said, "Is this the blessing you gave me? That after 2 years of enjoying this child, but only 2 years, and now the child is gone. I wanted I wanted a child that I could raise and bring to adulthood and have nachas from him." And the Baal Shem Tov says, "I want you to listen to a story that I want to tell you." He said, many years ago, somewhere in Russia, there was a pogrom. And this was a normal thing, unfortunately, in those years, that anti-Semites would run into a Jewish town or a Jewish neighborhood and attack the Jewish homes, kill the people, and steal from the homes. And in one such pogrom, the hooligan running in, we'll call him Ivan, he walked into the house, and he saw in the crib a newborn baby boy. And he, instead of killing the child like he did to the rest of the family of the child, he took the child, brought him home, and said to his wife, "We have no children. Guess what I brought you? I brought you a little present." And she was so excited that this beautiful baby boy, they'll raise him as their own child. When the child was about 2 years old, this anti-Semite, Ivan, even though he hated Jews, but he had one Jewish merchant that he did business with, and this Jewish merchant would come to his home, and they would do business, and he walks into the house, and he sees a baby boy in the crib, and he took one look at the baby boy, and he realized that it's not their child, because it looked totally different than Ivan and his wife, and he could see it was a Jewish child. So he said to Ivan, "Hey, where'd you get the baby?" He says, "My wife gave birth to him about 2 years ago." He says, "Come on, Ivan, tell me the truth. Come on, it's not your baby. Where'd you get him?" He said, "Okay, I picked him up at a pogrom." He says, "How much you want for him?" He says, "He's not for sale." He says, "Name your price." And this merchant was a wealthy man. And Ivan named a ridiculously high price, and the merchant paid it because he wanted to save this soul, save this Jewish boy. He took the baby back to his town, and he gave him to a couple that were childless, a very religious, God-fearing couple. And they raised the child with tremendous love and care and gave them an amazing Jewish education. The child was very, very bright. He grew to be a great scholar, a great rabbi, a great teacher, and he became a rabbi of a large community in Russia. and he lived to a ripe old age. And everybody loved this rabbi. He had done so much good in the world. When he passed away, his soul came to the heavenly gates, and the heavenly court saw right away there was a problem before they could let him through the heavenly gates. The problem was that for the first 2 years of his life, he was fed unkosher food, which had a very negative effect on him. That had to be corrected. The only way they could correct it was to send this precious soul down once again, at least for 2 years, to a family that would feed him kosher food. And the Baal Shem Tov said to the woman sitting in front of him that you should know that of all the Jewish women in the world, you were the one chosen for this holy and saintly soul to find correction by that for 2 years it would be fed kosher food and be in a Jewish environment. And you should feel very proud that you were the one chosen. And he said to her, but I don't want you to worry, because you will be blessed with more children. And so it was. So we see a lot of times that we see things happening that look very negative to us because we don't see the other side of the coin. And the same thing in terms with God. We cannot understand reasons why God does things, but we know and we have faith that everything that God does, if we don't see the blessing in a revealed way, then at least we should know that it's a blessing in disguise. I want to wish everyone a very happy and meaningful Shabbos.